Good afternoon, fellow conservationists. I would like to welcome you to the National Conservation District Employees Association hosted symposium. My name is Rhonda Kelsch. I serve as the current NCDEA president. I will serve as your moderator today while we host the National Conservation Planning Partnership and Outreach in a pandemic time. This year has served up some challenges that we all have learned to adapt to, either at home or within our operational duties as Conservation District employees and our working partnering agencies. Conservation District employees have learned new methods of delivery while working with rural and urban landowners, alongside continuing the importance of youth education in our schools and communities. While some things stood still as we dealt with current challenges, the agricultural movement pushed forward. Agriculture has proven to be even more vital to our sustainability and community growth. These movements have been contributed to NCPP's reinvigoration of conservation planning and educational components you as Conservation District employees provide within your respected area. As conservationists, we need to educate, be readily available, willing to listen, adapt to change, but most importantly, to share our stories of success, even if we fail, and recognize the importance of voluntary conservation on private lands. Today, you will hear from individuals that were influential in the development of the National Conservation Planning Partnership objectives and Conservation District employees who have virtually changed their outreach programs. I would like to remind all you taking in on this symposium, if you should have any questions, as the presenters move forward, you are able to use the chat capability that will be provided within the Zoom mechanism. At this time, I would like to open up for opening remarks to Mike Brown. Mike Brown serves as Executive Director of the National Association of State Conservation Agencies of NASCA and is also the co-chair of NCPP. We will also hear from Astor Boozer, the Natural Resource Conservation Service West Regional Conservationist, and he also serves as co-chair of the National Conservation Planning Partnership. So at this time, Mike and Astor, would you please lead us into some opening comments for today?
Thanks, Rhonda. Hi, folks. I'm Mike Brown, and I know many of you, and I'll tell you, it saddens me that we can't be together during this NACD annual meeting like we're accustomed to, but I hope this session finds you safe and well, and I hope that we all have some relief from this pandemic in the very, very near future. Rhonda introduced me as co-chair of the National Conservation Planning Partnership, along with Astor Boozer of NRCS. I will tell you this effort is far broader than just NRCS and NASCA. It's a collaboration of our 5 core partners, including those 2 agencies, but also NCDEA, the Employees Association, and also the National Association of RC&D Councils. It's kind of hard to believe, but we have been at this for just about 5.5 years now, working to reinvigorate conservation planning, because we believe conservation planning is foundational to all of the work that we do. I don't want to steal anyone's thunder for presentation, so I'm going to hold my remarks moving forward, but I would like to turn it over to Astor Boozer, my co-chair from NRCS.
Well, thanks, Mike. And I also appreciate the opportunity to talk, and thanks, Rhonda, as well. Guys, my name is Astor Boozer. I'm the Regional Conservationist for the West Region. And as Mike said, we wish we were face-to-face, but due to things that happen, we are making this work this way. You know, if we were face-to-face, we would have the Brown and Boozer show going on here at this particular time. So this is as close as we can get it, but just some comments based on what Rhonda was saying. The opportunity to listen is what we, as we go with NCPP, have been trying to do. Really listen to our landowners out there. Part of the work that staff are doing ties into outreach. So listening, outreach, and then trying to address our resource concerns there. at this particular time, whether it's a pandemic or whether it's some type of storm or something or disaster, we're out and about trying to make sure that we get things done. And I'll be brief as Mike was, and just say that, hey, we're here to listen. We hope that we have the opportunity, and I know we'll have some points later on as we get through this session. And as Rhonda said, questions, put them in the chat box for us. We're excited about this opportunity. And with that, I will turn it back to Rhonda for her to kick us off in the presentations. Rhonda?
Great. Well, thanks, Mike and Astor, for your opening comments. And we certainly look forward to seeing NCPP progress further into the future as we work on improving our conservation delivery as we work with our landowners. But I think Kasey and her committee have done an outstanding job of bringing forward where we are going to be moving towards in the future, whether it's dealing, like we have said with our landowners, having some roadblocks with the pandemic and just other hurdles that we may incur. So at this time, I would like to introduce Kasey Taylor. She is the state conservationist for Nrcs in Delaware. And Kasey also serves as co-chair of the NCPP communications and messaging team. And at this time, I would ask that Kasey bring forward any future plans for NCPP within communications and any activities that you would like to share with us today that you guys have been working on.
On behalf of the National Conservation Planning Partnership, we are proud to be able to provide an overview of the journey which began in 2015 and has resulted in the expansion of our technical resources. The combined resources and expertise of our local, state, and national conservation planners, partners, and our valued customers, farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners alike, has resulted in the adoption and implementation of new tools, increased training, and additional boots on the ground. The National Conservation Planning Partnership represents a national effort and commitment by the 5 partners to reinvigorate conservation planning by strengthening the support of field conservationists to work with clients in developing and implementing conservation plans. We work within the 9-step planning process to ensure that we have assisted our farmers, ranchers, and forest landowners achieve their long-term goals. In 2015, the Natural Resources Conservation Service, the National Association of Conservation Districts, the National Association of State Conservation Agencies, the National Association of District Employees Association, and the National Association of Resource Conservation and Development Councils sign a memorandum of understanding to bring our staff and members' greatest skills, strengths, and passion to this endeavor. NCPP recognizes it is only through the leadership, support, and commitment of the Conservation Partnership in the states that this effort will be successful. NCPP is committed to helping all leaders and employees alike. In addition, through ongoing dialogues, we will plan to identify the challenges and needs in question for ensuring that our technical skills and applicable employees are assigned and equipped to help get conservation on the ground. Together, we will achieve this goal. There is no virtue in planning merely for the sake of planning. Unless plans can be translated into action, planning becomes a profitless mental exercise. This effort is a call to action to ensure that conservation planning becomes the focal point that allows the utilization of various tools of implementation for the client. Establishing these goals will allow for the partnership to ensure that we have provided the key assistance needed to help the farmer, ranchers, and forest landowners achieve their goals. There have been key accomplishments made which have allowed for expansion of boots on the ground, increased technical expertise, knowledge transfer, and engaged dialogues that will expand to include the feedback received. Your input is key and has ensured that we have identified and are addressing the known issues, needs, and goals for this effort. Our website launched in 2019 and houses all of the available Conservation Partnership planning resources, along with updates on policy, training needs, and tools. During phase one, we wanted to ensure that employees received a message in a timely manner that would offer solutions to the issues that employees were experiencing. The Communications Committee developed and issued messages to provide project updates as well as now sharing timely information. The committee is tasked with asking the hard-hitting questions to ensure that we've identified what will be helpful for our employees. Gov Delivery was a tool that we used during phase 1 and allowed for us to have a one-stop shop to communicate directly with all of our employees. This, in addition, allowed for employees to be able to opt in for communications. We worked across the partnership to ensure that we had an extensive list for our employees, as well as making sure that we can now successfully engage all of the identified employees in question. NCDEA and the communication team is working with our marketing group to expand the website and has been developed to share additional information with employees and partners. Phase 2 will pull in new partners and groups that will help to leverage identified funding and resource needs. We will be branding out NCPP, and all messages will be issued direct from NCPP versus the currently used Gov Delivery mechanism. Each month, we will distribute a newsletter that will provide key updates, technical information, and guidance to our conservation partner employees. To date, there have been 10 newsletters issued that will focus and feature ongoing works and efforts within conservation. This, in addition to featuring our dynamic conservationists, allows for us to highlight what works in the field and across the conservation partnership. We're always open to new ideas to improving conservation planning. The Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Award has been an extremely effective means of recognizing extraordinary accomplishments in the conservation planning and implementation. The award winners have had amazing stories to tell, and their efforts have been stellar. However, selecting the annual winners has been a little bit of a difficult chore because so many excellent nominations are submitted on an annual basis. NCPP has therefore determined that our recognition of the conservation excellence has been too limited. We should instead be recognizing excellence in every state and region as well. The only way to effectively do this is with the engagement of the conservation partnership in every state and territory. NCPP is now considering every state conservation partnership to annually nominate a conservation planner and a producer for the Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Award. This may be as simple as nominating winners of existing state level conservation award winners, such as the Cooperator of the Year. In states that do not currently recognize unparalleled conservation planning or implementation, we welcome the conservation partnership in each state to utilize the Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Award moniker for your state level awards. Each year, these state winners will be entered as nominations for the Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Regional Award of each of the 7 NACD regions. The winners of these regional Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Awards will then be nominated for the National Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Award. We are privileged to have so many committed conservationists and the exemplary stewardship amongst our ranks. Together, we can and should do a better job of recognizing their commitment of leaving our world better than they found it. One way to do this is that every state and territory to engage within the Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Award process. We hope we can count on your conservation partnership to join us. As we plan for tomorrow together, let us be reminded that conservation planning is our first interaction with our customers and will help to ensure a good customer experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Kasey, for sharing the future plans with the NCPP and the communications and awards. When you spoke a little bit on the Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Award program, I think that is something that is very key, that we have some outstanding conservationists throughout the United States that are implementing conservation practices within their landscape and their operation. And I think this is just one opportunity to build on their accomplishments and use those individuals as mentors as we continue to work alongside our producers and educating them. So I thank you for bringing a highlight to the Hugh, Hammett, Bennett Awards program and in regards to that. So at this time, we've talked a lot about on conservation planning when we work with our landowners within our operation, within our conservation district offices, whether it's a conservation district employee or an NRCS employee as well. But I think one component that we find that is very crucial to delivering a positive message to just how important agricultural is educating our youth. If we can educate our youth on the importance of what ag is and where it comes from, I feel it kind of creates a roadblock with getting a positive message pushed out forward as we tell our stories. So I'm very happy at this time. We have two individuals that are going to share how they've adapted their outreach on a conservation district level due to the pandemic that has hit. Normally, once the school systems are up and going, you'll see a lot of the conservation district employees and NRCS employees in the school settings, whether it's be on a field day tours or going in and just giving presentations on where our food comes from and various topics of that sort. But this year, things had kind of transitioned, with having safety in mind with everyone. And we were very fortunate. We found these two great individuals that are going to share what their conservation district does to reach the youth without having those capabilities of being inside of the classroom during this time. So our first presenter today is Caitlin Stewart. She is a district manager from the Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District, New York. And her topic that she is going to present to us today is a survival guide for avoiding a conservation education dumpster fire during a global pandemic.
Hello, it is an absolute pleasure to be here with you during the NCPP and Outreach in a Pandemic Time presented by the NCDEA during the NACD 2021 annual meeting. I'm going to talk about a survival guide for avoiding a conservation education dumpster fire during a global pandemic. I am glad you all are here today. My name is Caitlin Stewart, and I manage the Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District that's located in the beautiful Adirondack Mountains of upstate New York. Our mission is to manage and promote the wise use of natural resources in Hamilton County, and a large component of our programming revolves around conservation education. And I'm very excited to share this survival guide for how we have adapted our programs and long-standing events to the pandemic. Here are our chapters for today's talk. Chapter 1, how to successfully work with schools during a pandemic. Chapter 2, education wins for long-standing and brand new events. Chapter 3, impactful technology tips. And Chapter 4, challenges and solutions. Getting right into Chapter 1, how to successfully work with schools during a pandemic. Check for the school's COVID-19 plan. When I was transitioning from in-person to virtual learning, the first thing I did was visit the school's website to see if they had posted their COVID-19 plan. This will allow the educators in your conservation district to become familiar with how schools are operating and any guidance in terms of safety. And it will also help to answer some preliminary questions that you as a presenter may have. Be patient, kind, and flexible. This is a very challenging time, and I feel educators are having a difficult time living in the pandemic world, some not being able to see our students in person, and a lot of students working from home. So when you're working with your teachers, be patient, kind, and flexible. I have found that this works very well, and boy, it just feels good. Keep safety the top priority, and be in all caps. Be sure to wear masks, exercise what safety means, and be a good model for the students. And think outside the box. Sometimes it was difficult to reach teachers as they were adjusting to the pandemic. They were swamped with trying to transition from in-person to virtual learning, some back to in-person. And we have expanded our programming beyond school classrooms to include libraries, lake associations, and youth groups during the pandemic. And those groups are equally eager to have a connection with conservation education. And finally, how to successfully work with schools during a pandemic: make it memorable. You may want to consider doing an activity with the students. You could certainly drop off some materials to the teacher before you give your presentation. And then if you're giving a virtual presentation, walk through how to do a craft. Having the students be able to take something home with them or create a craft or a project at home will really have an impact on those students. So make it memorable. And finally, don't go it alone. Conservation districts have a strong network in place, and we can reach out to our partners at Nrcs, at the state level, at the national level, to find out what's working and what's not. So don't be shy to reach out to your colleagues, perhaps in another county or even across state borders, to see how they are successfully implementing their conservation education programming and still getting that valuable information out to the students. Chapter 2, I'm so excited to review some of our education wins for our Hamilton County Soil and Water Conservation District's longstanding programs, and even some brand new programs that we just launched this year during the pandemic. We hired a new conservation technician, Jamie Parslow, and this mud season, she launched a scavenger hunt as well as an Earth Day art contest. The scavenger hunt was age appropriate for kindergartners all the way up through adults. And her goal for this event was to get people outside during mud season. Mud season in the Adirondacks, we're muddy. We may see 70 degrees during the day, and those temperatures plummet to -10 at the evening. Very volatile, very transitional season. And we understand that some people may be struggling during the pandemic. So Jamie wanted to offer a wonderful event to get people outside and enjoy their things. And she created a checklist that people could look for outside during mud season. Things like migrating geese, or a place where water has created something new, the very first flower that has emerged from the ground. And people were invited to either take a picture or create a drawing that showed their these items. And check off these items during their mud season scavenger hunt. We made it as easy as possible for people to submit their entries. They could drop them off right here at the district. They could mail their entries to us, or very popular, posting on social media. People would visit our Facebook page and post a picture of that very first flower that they saw of the season, and this mud season scavenger hunt was very well received. Jamie also put forth an Earth Day art contest for our art teachers, and she wanted to celebrate Earth Day and again make it as easy as possible for our students to participate in these events. Students could use whatever art medium they would like. They could use recycled materials, if they had some paper or some cans kicking around their home, they could turn those into their works of art with the theme of showing what Earth Day means to them. And again, making it very simple for participants to get us their entries, either take a picture and post it on social media, or send their entries in the mail, or drop them right off at our district. And it's important to mention that this was the very first year that Jamie offered the Earth Day Art Contest. She sent the rules and some tips to all of our art teachers here in Hamilton County. And while we did not receive an entry this year, she is excited to host it again next year. Sometimes it takes a while to get these events off the ground. So she's certainly not discouraged, and she looks forward to hosting the art contest again this year. Jamie also created a suite of environmental education resources for our teachers, and topics included watersheds, benthic macroinvertebrates, and invasive species. And she made sure that what she presented in this curriculum was aligning very well with STEM, STEAM, and Common Core. Again, she wanted to bring in that outdoor component and get the students outside, so she was able to weave some outdoor activities into these educational resources. We posted them in PDF form right to our website, again, making it very simple for our teachers to access this information. And if families, homeschool families wanted to access them, again, our website is just a click away. Some of our long-standing programs that people were very anxious to participate in. This year we hosted the 12th annual Arbor Day Poetry Contest for senior citizens. And I feel like seniors can sometimes be a group that's overlooked. And Hamilton County has an elderly population that's always very eager to participate in the Arbor Day Poetry Contest. Let me tell you, they were chomping at the bit this year, even during the pandemic, to write their poems. I switch up the theme every year to make sure that we're keeping things spicy for our poets. And this year they created a shape poem based on the theme Trees Weather the Seasons. And these shape poems took on beautiful forms of what the poet was depicting. We posted the winners online, and normally I really look forward to hosting award ceremonies in person at our senior centers. We have a wonderful lunch, everyone reads their poems, and then all participants will receive a certificate of merit, and then the first, second, and third place winners receive a bundle of trees. And this year, the award ceremonies looked a little bit different. We still printed out certificates for everyone, and instead of holding those in-person award ceremonies, we simply mailed everyone their certificates and their bundle of trees. And finally, wrapping up with our Lingalucha Memorial Conservation Field Day. This year, the event celebrated its 41st anniversary, 41 years of Conservation Field Day. And this year was also the very first virtual event, and it went off wonderfully well. The teachers were very happy that we still held it. And to give you all a little bit of background about the event, normally the event is held here at our conservation district. We have a nature trail, and we set up 6 stations, and 5th and 6th graders will hike to those presentation stations, and they'll learn about conservation from the experts. And we arm them with graphic organizers. The students jot down notes. They also are looking for a key quote, and they write the quote down. And all of this information is used in either the 5th grade essays or the 6th grade posters. And the students are showing which presentation, in their opinion, will most effectively protect the natural resources of Hamilton County. So the students are applying what they learned outside in the field from these natural resource experts, and they're showing what they think. And their submissions blew us away this year. I always recruit my mother, who's a quasi-retired library media specialist. I won't tell how many years, she'd kill me, but she always judges our essays and posters, and she said that she was so impressed with this year's submissions. And normally we'll host in-person awards ceremonies. Every student who participates receives a certificate of merit, and then we hand out first, second, and third places for each class, as well as a county-wide plaque and a special prize for the overall winners. And we hosted our virtual event this year, and we had some amazing presentations pre-recorded, and all of that information is available on our website. So we had topics like keeping water clean, invasive species, composting, soil health, and a couple of others. And the students were able to access the videos, watch them, take down some notes. This year we made the contests optional, and every school who participated submitted an entry for the essay and poster contest. And we are really able to see the impact that this event has on our students. So again, transitioning from an in-person field experience and a really wonderful in-person award ceremony to virtual videos. And I've just gotten our plaques engraved, and I will be dropping all of the awards off at the schools so that the teachers can safely disseminate the awards to their students. So it's creatively thinking of how to best offer these events and not give them up. And, you know, as an educator, it's wonderful to still be able to reach our students. I want to share some impactful technology tips with you that you may find beneficial in your educational programs. Social media is a must. Our Facebook page has exploded during the pandemic, and I want to share some numbers with you. In 2020, our social media total reach was 49,500 people. And that was way up from 2019's total reach of 19,500. People are turning to Facebook during the pandemic. And our conservation district has developed some weekly posts. We have our Mindful Moment Monday post, and it's a simple video that's taken outside. A couple weeks ago, I posted some snow on a beautiful hemlock branch. Other Mindful Moment Mondays have included sunsets and some pictures of the fall foliage. And Jamie has also been posting Wisdom Wednesday posts, and she's posted some wonderful, informative posters about webworms and invasive species and watersheds, and those have also been very well received. So giving your audience something to look forward to. I know some other conservation districts have had very successful Forestry Friday posts. It's just giving your audience something to look forward to weekly, and it's allowing you to post a couple times a week too, which makes your Facebook page more visible. Engage your audience with videos. I use a video creator called Vegas Movie Studio to make our movies. And if you can, invest in a video camera, and that will really bring your videos up a notch. Videos are a wonderful way to reach your audience. I had a couple of requests from a lake association and a youth group who specifically asked for videos as the medium for presentations. And so Jamie and I worked to develop an invasive species video as well as a water quality video. And these were very, very well received. We also created a video depicting green infrastructure and how that can be used to successfully manage our shorelines and prevent erosion, protecting our water quality. And those were very well received. Edit your pics. One of my favorite online editor tools is PicMonkey. It just makes me happy to use. And if you use your online or for press releases, in your annual reports, A simple free app like PicMonkey will really help to bring your pictures over the top, add some pizzazz, and really enhance that visual aspect. In Chapter 4, Challenges and Solutions. Conservation Field Day. A little while ago, I mentioned that Conservation Field Day went virtual this year. The hardest aspect I dealt with was finding a platform that all of our school districts could use. I had originally hoped to use Zoom and stream the videos live, but unfortunately, some schools cannot use Zoom. They can only use Google Classroom. So again, having to think creatively. So instead of having the videos live where the students could interact, I simply recorded them and uploaded them to Vimeo. Now, Vimeo is like YouTube. YouTube and Vimeo are video hosting sites. And I choose Video, our conservation district, which was actually kicked off of YouTube. Long story short, we turned to Vimeo. And unfortunately, Wheelerville Union Free School blocked Vimeo. So one student actually went home and watched the videos from her home beyond what she would normally do in a normal school day. And she submitted a beautiful poster for this year's contest. And that just goes to show how dedicated our students are in learning about Conservation Field Day. Even though she was not able to watch the videos at her school, she wanted to learn. She watched the videos at home and she submitted a beautiful poster. And this little girl will be receiving a special award for this year's award ceremony. Challenges with the press. Normally, I write and submit press releases, and we get really wonderful press coverage in the Hamilton County Express, our normal newspaper. Times are tough now, and the newspaper doesn't have the ads that it used to have to cover the costs of more pages. And so their column inches have been much more dedicated to publishing town board meeting minutes, as well as COVID-19 updates. So the competition has increased for this column space. I do submit as much as I can, and I also use the press releases for our newsletters. So they definitely go double duty, but it's been increasingly hard to see our conservation news published in our local newspapers. I've spoken with the editor, and he is always very happy to receive non-COVID news. So even if it's something as simple as a photo with a caption, all of that is communicating our value. Event participation. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, our participation has significantly decreased. And normally we see numbers in the high 900s. In 2019, our educational and outreach events reached 967 people. This year, we were way down to only 238. And I say only, but what I really mean is during a pandemic, our conservation district was able to reach over 238 people. I'm very proud of this number, and those people who participated, students all the way up through adults, I'm confident that they have an appreciation for conservation and appreciation for protecting our natural resources. We're still going to offer all of our events this year, and it may take a couple of years for the new events to get off the ground. And that one teacher who will run an event with his or her entire class, and by word of mouth, in a couple of years, we may see Jamie's Earth Hour poster contest, that art contest, really explode. And I want to conclude with this slide. Teaching is the greatest act of optimism. And going back to one of my first chapters of Make It Memorable, The picture on the left is me working with some students, socially distanced, all masked. This is my alter ego, Dottie the spotted lanternfly. We're getting some education out with invasive species. One of the top middle photos is of Jamie working with her Water is Water presentation. She's making a mobile with that little girl. Again, giving those students something to take home, something to remember that presentation by. The bottom photo, our Conservation District Technician Lenny Crute worked with the Department of Transportation and showed them some native grass seed mixes during a hydro seeding project. So education with our partners, again, outside, socially distanced, getting that conservation on the ground. And finally, wrapping up with an outdoor journaling presentation that I gave for a youth program. These students used natural items like leaves and branches to do rubbings. They painted, and you could just see their creativity bloom with their nature journaling. And we wrapped up this presentation by sitting for 5 minutes with our eyes closed and our ears open, and sort of, using what may not necessarily be a dominant sense. And after that 5 minutes concluded, the journal what they felt, what they heard, what they tasted, and it really gave them a different view of their natural world and of conservation. And Robin, who is the director of the youth program, contacted me a couple of months later, and she said, Caitlin, these students are still using their journals. They're journaling about what they're feeling, about their day, and boy, isn't that the goal of conservation? And finally, wrapping up with our appendix, I want to thank the Hamilton County Board of Directors, as well as our indefatigable staff who really stepped up during the pandemic to make sure that we offered our programs and services at an expert level. And this, our staff and partners are amazing. And at this point, I would like to take any questions.
Thank you, Caitlin, for sharing your survival guide for avoiding conservation education dumpster fire during a global pandemic. Certainly was an outstanding presentation, and it was nice hearing the diverse educational programs that you guys have for all ages that you do within your county. And I really like the reference point that you had made during your presentation, that it wasn't about the number of participants, but it was bringing the awareness forward. And I think that's something that we all wish to obtain when we are telling our story. And also the importance of incorporating technology and the educational part together, because I think that's kind of where we tend to grasp the kind of the enrichment, and the youth are more engaged with that when we can kind of incorporate a little bit more of the technology as things have transitioned over the years with that. So thank you for taking the time to give us that presentation. And at this time, I would like to introduce Nicole Beard. She's the district manager from the West Polk Soil and Water Conservation District in Minnesota. And Nicole's topic is going to be water quality and conservation education from a distance.
Greetings. My name is Nicole Byrne. I'm from West Polk Soil and Water Conservation District in Crookston of Northwest Minnesota. Today, I have the privilege to talk to you about the first virtual Northwest Minnesota Water Festival that was conducted in the fall of 2020. This presentation has been made possible by the National Conservation District Employee Association and the National Conservation Planning Partnership. Since 2001, the Northwest Minnesota Water Festival has been an annual educational, hands-on event for fourth graders to learn about water quality and conservation issues. This has been conducted through a coalition of 8 soil and water conservation districts and several conservation organization partners, including the Minnesota DNR, Watershed districts, International Waters Institute, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Natural Resource Conservation Service. This year, this event reached out to 589 students, 23 public and private schools, and 4 home schools. Most years, the event is held on 2 days at 2 separate locations due to the number of different schools participating. It is hosted at county fairgrounds that accommodate the needed room for the activities, restrooms, and parking for school buses and staff vehicles. There are 8 learning stations, and these are watersheds, water quality, groundwater, flooding, aquatic invasive species, aquatic life, the water cycle, and fish arcade, which is 2 stations of casting and fish painting. Next, I'll be showing you a few examples of some of the stations in order to give you an idea of what kind of task we had in front of us to make this event virtual. The Watershed Station. Here, the students are asked to locate themselves where they are within their watershed. We ask them the kinds of pollution they think that you as humans might add to the watershed and why they should care about their watershed. This activity allows the students to apply water with that squirt bottle you see on the table anywhere within that modeled watershed to see where the water actually flows and to watch what we call the movement of water. The Water Quality Station, excuse me, this activity gives the students a chance to actually be what we call a water quality scientist. They learn how transparency is measured of how far you can see through the water or the clarity of the water. They also learn that turbidity is the opposite of transparency. It's a measure of how hard it is to see through water. So they learn that how transparency changes when sediment is added. Flooding station. Students here learn how wetlands act like sponges. And as you can see on the pictures, there's some sponges that they're holding. And in their watershed is the example of their watershed is that plastic paint tray you see as well. So when the rain falls into the wetland or over land and it gets soaked up, it shows that it's trapped by that wetland. So the students here are learning the importance of wetlands and what causes flooding. Arcade, excuse me, the casting, we had 2 smaller lessons within the arcade. Here is casting. This activity more or less is to give these students a chance to hold a rod and a reel in their hand. A lot of these students have never been fishing, have never had the opportunity. So we as a group thought it was important that they had that experience, and they are simply casting into hula hoops that are probably about 50 feet in front of them to see if they can reach inside the hula hoop. Now, when they're casting, the presenters are talking to them about fishing, what kinds of game fish, why do we fish those types of species, and also about how important clean lakes, rivers, and streams are. Second part of the arcade is our fish painting. These students here get the opportunity to paint their own fish in whatever color they choose. These are rubber replicas of game fish of Minnesota. And while they are painting their fish, the presenters are talking to the students about different types of fish, fish parts, and also what kind of fish you find in Minnesota's lakes, streams, and rivers. And then we always try to end our presentation about how important it is to have that good, clean water for fish. And once the paintings are done, what they do is they take that piece of paper and they lay it over their fish, they peel it back, and they have a painted picture of their fish that you see on the paper towel. So then they can take that back to their school for display or take it home. Excuse me. So when the time came for us to start planning our September Northwest Water Festival in 2020, as a planning group, with much dismay, we highly considered canceling the festival, which has never been done in 20 years. But holding on to the hope to spark an interest for natural resources in all our youth, we stepped up to the challenge and we restructured the framework in order for this festival to be experienced virtually or conducted in a socially distanced classroom. Presenters from the learning stations communicated with each other. They pulled in their resources to create a lesson platform for that station. So each learning station included a lesson plan, a video, and an interactive activity. These presenters then incorporated the needed supply within their lesson plan that in hopes were already available in the classroom or at home. The lesson plans were designed with flexibility and the option to customize to fit the teacher or student needs. Teachers could then hold an all-day event if they choose, or they could include the lesson plans within their regular curriculum throughout the year. Here are just a few examples from the lesson plans. These are just some snippets to give you an example. So the far left, you see a groundwater vocabulary crossword puzzle from the student packet for the groundwater station. In the center, you see a snapshot from the teacher's copy, as it states, giving direction on that experiment for watersheds. And then on the far my right is just a snippet. We have a YouTube video made by the Watershed District of water quality. And know that these packets, the teacher packets and the student packets, are available online at our website, as you see on the bottom line there. And also you can YouTube Northwest Minnesota Water Festival and watch the video for yourself. So to me, the most important thing is organization and delivery. How are we going to do this? How are we going to reach out to this many schools and students and give them the product, an end product that we've done in the years past? So through a lot of coordination and communication of the planning group, we had to collect the number of students that were participating from the schools from 8 soil and water conservation districts. And once that number was collected, we had one person in our planning group, a facilitator, to say she was our hub. So all the information went to her. She organized meetings, virtual meetings. She took notes, and she was the one that helped us keep track of numbers of students and supplies. So also within our planning group, we also had people help review the material, purchase material that was needed, and then together, several of us got together, put everything together. As you can see in these pictures here, it was quite a bit. It was a lot. I wanted to share the cost of this event, because by hearing the numbers and the amount of partnerships that are included in time, sometimes the dollar amount can go up in one's head. But I want to share that the total cost for the Northwest Water Festival for 2020 was $2,167. And one of the soil and water districts that are part of the planning group received a grant from the Minnesota Groundwater Association Foundation of $1,000. Now know that this grant is available every year, so we have been taking turns as soil and water conservation districts to apply for this grant. So what happens then, that remaining amount gets divided between the 8 partaking soil and water districts. So this year it costs, say, West Polk SWCD $145.88 to help pay for the materials expense. And then also when it comes to the financial part, we do designate one soil and water district to handle the financials. They're the ones that will do invoices and keep track of the budget. So lastly, I want to thank you. I want to say there's a lot of information there that I didn't mention because it is such a big event. We have so many participants and there's a lot of detail that goes into this. But I want you guys to know that you can contact me, email or phone call, and give me ask me any questions. I'd be more than happy to answer whatever I can. Know that it's not me. I'm giving credit to the whole group for putting this event on and being successful as we have, and going to the virtual and online distance learning. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Nicole, for sharing your virtual water festival that you guys had incorporated into your 8 county schools this year. So thank you for that. It was some great information. And what I'd like to do now is bring forward some closing remarks, and I will turn this over to Mike Brown and Astor Boozer from the NCPP co-chairs to bring any closing remarks forward. And I also would like to remind you guys as well that if anyone during this symposium had any questions or comments, feel free to contact any of the presenters that have spoken today, or to utilize the chat function that will be available to you guys. So thank you. And Mike and Astor, we will turn it over to you for closing.
Thanks, Rhonda, and thanks to all of our presenters today. You know, outreach and communication is so important. It's certainly important with everything we do at NCPP. You know, Kasey brought up the NCPP website, and that's ncpp.info. I want to make sure I remind folks of that, because if you'll go to that homepage, there are a couple features you need to be aware of. One is right on the homepage, you can subscribe to all NCPP notifications. And this is not just a website that was built and sits there very statically. This thing is very dynamic. All the latest information is constantly being posted. If you're a conservation planner or have any interest in conservation planning at all, you'll want to go to ncpp.info. Now, I told you that you can get information from the website by subscribing, but you can also, on that homepage, there's a button there that allows you to make comments and give us ideas, which we always want. Simply click on that button to submit an idea, and I promise you it will be taken before the leadership team, and most of those ideas that we receive turn into action. So again, that's ncpp.info. Kasey and Melissa Higbee co-chair our communications and messaging team, and they do a great job. But I will tell you, there are a lot of things going on within NCPP, not just in the communications and outreach areas. For instance, we currently have a producer survey that's ongoing. That'll be open until the middle of February, where we're trying to get a better handle on what's important to producers as far as conservation planning and the plans themselves. What really makes a difference? What's helpful? Because at the end of the day, our goal is to put the best product available in the hands of our producers. Some other things we're working on. We're working to simplify the conservation planner policy, and many of the comments we received all the way back to 2018, where we did listening sessions across the country, are being put into action, and that policy is being revised, simplified, and our goal is not to limit the number of planners, but to increase the number of conservation planners across the landscape. We're also, we put notices for training opportunities on the website, but we're also working to create more training opportunities, to create more regional training opportunities so people don't have to travel as much. And one thing this pandemic has demonstrated the need for is we have to have better online training. AgLearn is improving every day, and NCPP has been a big part of that. And I should say this, NCPP, I don't think our job will ever be finished, because we constantly want this planning partnership to get better, because we always want conservation planning to get better. Like I said, at the end of the day, we want the best possible planning product in the hands of our producers and landowners across the country. And with that, Astor, I'll turn it to you to wrap us up.
Well, Mike, thank you very much. You didn't leave much for me to wrap up, or you did a great job of pulling it all together. And I appreciate all of the presenters, Rhonda, definitely in moderating and keeping us on track and things was very important. One thing I will say quickly before I forget is that we'll be meeting tomorrow at NCPP and discussing a lot of this here. Some of those next steps, as Mike was saying, ties into our overall training. the particular website. And one thing that Mike mentioned, where people can subscribe to receive that newsletter, Gov Delivery, information of that sort. We have some 17,000 people that have subscribed to that at this here particular point. So, there's an opportunity there for more information to get into your hands and see what's going on. And I'd like to just add, when you listen at what was discussed today, it gives a good opportunity to deal with where we are right now, but also the future. And I mentioned that because, we're from the NCPP perspective, we're talking to farmers, ranchers, landowners, our forest stewards. And then a lot of the outreach presentations that were shown today really focus on the youth, and the youth that were engaged in, some of the watershed discussion, the water quality, things that you deal with across the landscape are going to be some of the future conservationists, future landowners, forest stewards. So it's great that we have that connection between the actual National Conservation Planning partnership and also outreach and education through our district partners and employee organizations as well. So again, I wanted to say thanks again for the presentations. Thanks for everyone that listened in today. Hopefully you gained some bits of information that you can share with someone else, take back to your particular county. And I think it was said to reach out to folks that presented today that you may have some additional questions on how did you overcome this here during the pandemic, and what technology is available. What can we look at for future opportunities as things move forward? So once again, I want to thank you myself. Mike did a great job. It's tough for me to follow my friend Mike, but we made it work and stuff. So thanks again. I want to give it back to Rhonda for a complete wrap up of the session today. And remember, folks, we'll be meeting tomorrow with our NCPP committee and group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to take part of our NCDEA pandemic and NCPP outreach symposium. I really want to just highlight a few things that were brought up today. I think that bears a great deal of importance as we talked about the National Conservation Planning Partnership. While we're working with our landowners, I think it's very important, as Kasey talked about today, that we think about highlighting or recognizing some of our outstanding operators that are out there throughout the US and in the regions. That is how education learns and grows, by acknowledging those that are doing outstanding contributions to agricultural in their operations. And I just wanted to remind everyone as we are out working with our producers in the field or in the office, that we kind of keep that little tidbit in the back of our mind that, it's good to uplift. And I think it really shows encouragement, and it also provides another step for a mentoring situation within your county as you're working with landowners and trying to incorporate new things. So I really encourage everyone to really kind of think about when we are working with our conservation producers, anyone that might stand out for that Hugh Hammett Bennett Award. It couldn't be more fitting to find that perfect example within your county. I would like to also thank the presenters that took time today, Caitlin and both Nicole. They've got some outstanding programs within their counties on how they've transitioned to dealing with the pandemic and the virtual capabilities. And I think we're going to start seeing a lot more of that as things transition. It just came upon us real quickly. And I think as Conservation District employees and NRCS employees as well, we are used to adapting quickly and moving forward with the best positive message that we can correlate to the individuals we are working with. And I think Astor said it best when he gave his closing remarks as well, that conservation planning and education go hand in hand at all levels. And I think we've seen and heard some examples today with that. So with that, I wish you guys great conservation blessings as we move forward into 2021, and hoping we all can gather together soon in person. And as always, stay happy and healthy. And thanks again.